Increase excise duty on SUVs, which are non-taxis, from 27% to 30%. This has, an impact on Mahindra and Mahindra. Excise duty reduction on chassis of transport vehicles. This is for commercial vehicles, which is positive for Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland. And they made some additional allocations for the Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission, which is also positive for, both Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland. It is for 2013-2014. Our fiscal year starts on April 1st, 2013 to March 31st, 2014. It's called fiscal year. No, this is, see, we are looking at fiscal year. A fiscal year starts from April to March. So April 2013 to March 2013. I think you should have put 2013-2014 because we are not on calendar years. We are on fiscal years. Okay. So this title is wrong. I'm okay. As far as the media goes, just increase in custom duty on set-top boxes, not major. Consumers, there's been a massive increase in excise duty on cigarettes, expected. But year after year, it keeps on happening, and ITC keeps on increasing prices in line with excise, and the company still continues to grow. So people still smoke cigarettes, and maybe in bad times they smoke more. So this continues. It is negative from that perspective, but you normally see it impacts volume growth, but over a period of time, price growth takes over, and they report their earnings. As far as utilities is concerned, number of proposals. They've extended the ATIA benefit for about a year. For power projects. For wind projects, they have gone into generation-based incentives. They had this about 2 years back. They've introduced it again. As far as there's some low-interest bearing funds for renewable energy, so they want to promote renewable energy. This is important. Customs duty and the countervailing duty in thermal coal has been increased from 0% and 1% respectively to 2% and 2%. Now, this means that there's a rise of about 3% from the previous year on coal. Now, those who are basically selling power on merchant basis clearly get impacted because they bear the entire risk on coal prices. So, anybody who's on merchant power, which is GSW, PTC, etc., they get impacted because of this measure. As far as dividend income, this is not only for power companies, it's for all companies. Any dividend you receive from a foreign subsidiary, it gets taxed at about 15%, but if you pay that dividend out, then that tax will not be, it will be offset against the dividend that you receive from your parent company. This was only applicable for dividend from domestic companies earlier. Now they have extended it to dividends received from foreign companies. Telecom, nothing major. Capital goods, I spoke about the investment allowance, and they seem to have made some statements on the dedicated freight corridor. Dedicated freight corridor is a massive project. We have got both the eastern corridor and the western corridor. Work is currently, going on both these corridors. What these corridors, for those of you who are not aware, if you look at the railway network in India, it is mainly used for passengers and for goods. Now, when a passenger train goes on the same line, the goods goes on the same line, goods train goes on the same line, the goods can't be transported fast. It depends on the speed of the passenger train in front of you. At the same time, there is a limited amount of capacity you can put on the same line because those railway lines can't take heavy loads. So what they're doing now is they're creating a dedicated freight corridor where only goods will be transported. It will be completely different from the line of the passenger train. There will be some points where they connect, but by and large, there will be a separate dedicated freight corridor. They will increase the width of the wagons, the height of the wagons, make it double-decker, and make sure that you transport more number of goods on this corridor. So that's a very good project. The velocity of trade will increase. So this is something you need to watch out for. It will increase, the turnaround times in terms of supplying of goods. So dedicated freight corridor is something we are bullish on. It's a good project. And along the dedicated freight corridor are coming up these, industrial corridors, which are going to create, a number of new cities. As far as oil and gas is concerned, the good news is that whatever bad news you wanted to come did not come. So that was the best thing that happened in the oil sector. And the other part was that at least this time around, they have, provided for subsidy at least on a more realistic basis. As far as the future, NELP blocks on oil, they have now said that you will have profit sharing model based on, you are moving away from the profit sharing model to the revenue sharing model. If you look at most of the NELP blocks, they had a profit sharing model. So, and this is something which is like a royalty now. They're moving to a royalty kind of a mechanism, which will be on revenues rather than on profits. So if you don't make profits, you don't get the money, but here if you make revenues, you'll still get the money. So that's what the government has moved to. Natural gas pricing, they just said that, it'll be done in due course. The prices of gas need to increase. They haven't made it as part of a budget statement, but my sense is that they're working on it, and you'll see some announcements on gas prices, going forward. Nothing much on metal and mining. There's an excise duty, increase on silver, and some export duty imposed on bauxite. So it's just, mildly positive for aluminium companies. Real estate. Now, real estate, there's been like I said about this 1 lakh benefit given to those buying new houses to the extent of which they take loan for 25 lakhs. Now, today, if you do a transaction, they're going to charge you, in the real estate market, they'll charge you a TDS, a tax deducted source of 1% for transfer of immovable property except agricultural land. So, this is only for property which is more than, or immovable property more than 50 lakhs. So, anybody selling it has to pay a TDS of 1%. They've introduced a service tax like on real estate. They were giving you a service tax abatement of 75%, and only on the balance 25% were you basically paying the service tax. So a property was X value, on 25% you were paying the service tax. Now they're saying you have to pay it on 30% of the value. The abatement is only 70%. This is a new proposal that they have brought in, which is an interesting proposal to bring the black economy into the mainstream economy. What it essentially states is that today when property transactions are done, they're not done at fair value. Some money is given in black, some money is given in white. So what they are saying is that if the buyer is basically paying less than the fair value of the property in white, they will compute what the fair value is, and the differential between the fair value and the white amount that he has paid will be basically taxed. So that is what they're trying to do. So all transactions should be, done at close to fair value, at least what is possibly in the ready reckoner. So this is a new thing to bring the black economy into the mainstream economy. Regulatory, they want a regulator for roads. We already have the NHAI, but the regulator, in my opinion, will also get involved in tariffs, etc. This 3,000 kilometers of road, like I said, is wishful thinking because the land is not available. Remember, today, if I am a bidder and I have to bid for a road, the first thing I want to do is there is a land available, because what's the use of bagging the project when I don't know what the land is available to bring the road? No bank, no financer will want to finance me if I have a road without land. So my interest rates will be extremely high to take care of the pre-operative risk. So bidders only have not come in for the roads. So once you get the land, then I will bid for it, because it reduces my pre-operative risk significantly. So it is important for them to get the land in place. Once the land is in place, bidders will come. As far as cement is concerned, there is, there's an equalization of duty as far as types of coal is concerned. On bituminous coal, the duty was 5 to 6%. They're normalizing it now to around 2%. So there's some benefit for cement companies. Nothing much on the good news on gold was nothing happened on gold. My sense is that in the next few months, you will see more policies coming to disincentivize people on gold. Finance Minister is worried that if he increases duty more than 6%, the smuggling will increase. So there's a breaking point to which you can increase duties on gold. But there could be other measures in which you can take to reduce the consumption of gold. And to switch, in fact, there was it's very interesting that foreign money has come into Indian equities, $24 billion last year, about $8 to $9 billion in the first 2 months of this year, and Indian money is going into foreign gold. So, you have a very odd situation. So can you channelize that money which is going into gold into the equity markets? That is the intent. So inflation-linked bonds, making gold, expensive by increasing import duty, that is the intent of the Finance Minister. Branded garments, they are now removed excise duty. For those who have been shopping, you will find that all your garment prices went up and you didn't really, and all the volumes got impacted. Now this excise duty has fallen, so you will see in subsequent months your garment price is also falling. So it's good to shop after a few months. This is not very significant, so I'll go to what has changed in India now. So that is basically, the budget analysis in terms of the macro aspects of the budget and the, sectoral impact. I'll now come more to the economy and what has changed. Okay, the first point is on GDP growth. Now, if you look at GDP growth, we have slowed down significantly. our real GDP growth rate this year would be less than 5.5%, anywhere between 5 to 5.5%. And next year, our projection is closer to 6%. And that also, the 6% is not coming because of an investment cycle recovery. It's coming because we're expecting a better monsoon. So agriculture, will rebound. And we are expecting that interest rates would come down, transmit into lending rates, and that will spur some amount of growth. So not a major recovery expected by us next year, but the good news is that our GDP growth rate in our view has bottomed out. So FY13 would mark the bottom of India's GDP growth. Okay, and the recovery will take place slowly in our view, but definitely the trajectory is upwards. The second point to note is inflation has remained pretty high, and it has been very supply driven. There are three components of inflation. One is food inflation, second is fuel inflation, and third is manufacturing inflation. Now, food inflation you can't control through monetary policy. It's a function of demand supply. As far as fuel inflation is concerned, it is policy driven. If I want to increase diesel prices, the fuel inflation will increase. So I have no control over that. It's based on policy. So what I can control is only co-inflation, which is manufacturing inflation. And manufacturing inflation has been moderating. And moderating not because of any other reason, is because growth has slowed down. So clearly that leaves some room for the central bank to cut interest rates. Our view is that the central bank will cut interest rates by about 75 basis points in the next 6 to 9 months. The reason being is the fiscal policy has now been spelled out by the finance minister. Last time, the central bank, when it started its easing policy, it did it before the fiscal policy responded. And then they went in for a massive pause. This time, the fiscal policy has responded, saying this is what we want to achieve. Now it's left for the central bank to act. My sense is that the March policy will see a further cut in interest rates. We've already seen cash reserve ratios being cut by 200 basis points since last year, beginning of last year. Policy rates have already been cut by 75 basis points. We have to now rely completely on monetary policy to stimulate growth, because fiscal policy is constrained to stimulate growth. So the whole onus has come on the central bank or the Reserve Bank of India to cut interest rates. But cutting policy rates is not important. It has to translate into lending rate cuts. Till it gets transmitted to lending rate cuts, you don't see a recovery in the economy. As far as currency is concerned, our view is that the rupee could, on the base case, range between 53 to 57 to the dollar. We are facing an issue in terms of a high current account deficit. The problem we have in India's currency is that the foreign exchange reserves we have is just about close to 7 months of imports. There used to be a time when it used to be about 10, 11 months of imports. So unless we get that foreign exchange reserves up, the rupee will always be volatile. So whenever the rupee appreciates, the central bank will go and start buying US dollars because they want to build that dollar war chest to protect the rupee in the event of a speculative attack. So therefore the rupee can't appreciate beyond a point. Depreciation is a function of current account deficit. And I think we wouldn't mind, depreciation of around 2 to 3% every year, because it makes us, competitive from an export standpoint. Exports, as you know, has not done too well for India. So we need to be far more competitive. Currency will give us some tailwind as far as export is concerned. But it's very important that unless exports go up, it's extremely difficult to see the current account, being corrected. So we're completely slaves to the capital accounts, completely slaves to foreign capital coming to the country. And that's the reason why you have the debt limits, the fixed income limits being increased progressively in India to make sure that foreign money not only comes from portfolio investments into equities, they're opening up foreign direct investments, and they're also opening up investments into the fixed income market.